What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are working on the carburetor. So as I've said in a bunch of the previous videos, this car had way too much fuel going into it all of the time. Now this carburetor is a Holley 670 Street Avenger carburetor, which if you know anything about carburetors, that's one of their performance carburetors. It's not like it's a street carb or anything like that. It does still work on street cars. Now I bought this because it was recommended to me by a shop that had done some work to my car before. The guy had it on like a 67 Chevelle, similar build, not really super hopped up, but that guy did drag race his car, so he probably needed the amount of fuel that this carburetor is capable of putting out. I really don't. There's a calculation that you can do that'll tell you how much CFM your carburetor needs to flow, and the one that fits my car best is more like a 550 or a 570. Again, I bought this one on a recommendation. I was thinking, oh, Holley carburetors tend to be plug and play, so I'll give this one a shot. Before we put the carburetor back on the engine, I'm gonna see if we can tune some of that stuff out. We're gonna change the jets, we're gonna change the power valve, and the rest is gonna have to come after the motor is back on the engine and the engine is running. So with that, I got tools, I got coffee, let's get it going. A little more about this carburetor. The primary jet is a size 65, the secondary jet is a size 72, and the power valve is a size 6.5. So basically the way a carburetor works is you've got your primary side and your secondary side. The primary side is for more when you're cruising around the street at part throttle. Secondary side is for when you're getting on it a little more aggressively, flooring it like on an on-ramp or flooring it down the track. And I think these jet sizes are just a little too big. Same thing with the power valve. Now the way the power valve works is that's based off of the amount of vacuum that your engine is pulling. So if you hook up a vacuum gauge while the engine is running, you'll get a vacuum reading. And basically what you do with that vacuum number is you divide it by 2, and that's how you get your power valve. So if you are at 13 inches of vacuum and you divide it by 2, you get 6.5. Now let's say you were at 18 inches of vacuum. What you do is you still divide it by 2, but you go to the next smallest one. So 18 divided by 2 is 9. Rather than going to a 9.5, you would actually go to an 8.5 size power valve. So one of the things with this car when it was idling, too much fuel going through the motor, and the exhaust was actually so bad that it was burning my eyes, and burning the eyes of really anybody that was around the car for too long. So part of the cause of that is the power valve. So what I'm going to try to do after we change the jets and things, I'm going to change the power valve. I'm going to drop 2 sizes and see if that helps. See if that helps clean up the idle, helps prevent too much fuel from going through the motor, and we'll just see if it helps performance in general. And then once we get the carburetor back on the engine and get the engine running again, we can do an actual tuning process and make sure that everything, like absolutely everything, is good. So the primary is this, so this is where we're going to start. All right, so we're going to loosen these bolts here. Now I've got a rag underneath here just to catch any fuel that may still be left in the bowls. If you were doing this with the carburetor on the engine, that's very, very important, and it's also very important to do this when the motor's off, because you don't want any fuel to leak all over your engine and potentially start a fire. So it's just 4 bolts here. Okay. All right. So now that is the float off, and these are our jets. These are our jets right here. This is our power valve. So let's take our jet tool and let's take these on out of here. So these are our size 65 jets, and what we are gonna do, we're gonna jet down. So jet sizes tend to go in sizes of 2, so one size down from 65 should be 64, and the one after that should be 62. It's not gonna go 65, 64, 63, 62. But so, we're just gonna throw these in. And now, with these jet sizes, it may be kind of hard to tell with these. But bigger number means bigger hole in the primary jet. So 65 on the left-hand side, 62 on the right-hand side. There is a slight difference in the hole there. Now, if we take a 54 and a 65, you can see there is a big difference there. So all we're trying to do is just take out a little bit of fuel and see if that helps our situation. So, not sure if you're going to be able to see it. This is the Holley carburetor jet tool. The jets were screwed on pretty tight, and it actually ended up bending the tip of this tool a little bit. So what I now have to do is use a flathead screwdriver. That's not really the best way to do things. If you do have to do this, be very, very gentle, because it's very easy to mess up your jets using a flathead screwdriver. So just be very careful doing that. So one of the other things I did is I made sure I got a whole bunch of new gaskets, because if we're going to be taking these on and off, I don't know that you can replace these gaskets. This one, and this is the original one that came with the engine, looks like it's pretty crushed, so just want to make sure that you're putting on new gaskets whenever you do stuff like this. Alright, so went ahead and got the metering block off, the primary metering block, and as we can see, 6.5 on the power valve there. Like I said, I think this is a little too big, so all I'm going to do is just very carefully try to get this off, really trying not to damage anything. So taking out the power valve, literally as easy as screwing it in and out. Each of these new power valves comes with a new gasket. So here is my 4.5. Take that out, put it back in. Want to make sure I'm getting off this old gasket here. Just make sure you're giving yourself a nice clean mating surface. I'm gonna turn off the camera and clean this up real quick, see if we can get ourselves a nice flat surface. So that is pretty clean there. We're gonna take our 4.5 power valve. I'm gonna toss that in. You don't have to go too crazy there, just want to make sure that it's the right way. And same thing, get ourselves a nice new clean gasket. Okay, so this one was like that. This one's also got to be like that. Alright, so it may actually be a little easier to do things this way. We'll sort of pre-assemble here. Get everything all lined up. Make sure all of the passages are free and clear. We'll take one of our bolts and throw one of them in there. Hold it all together. Slap it back on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now that is the primary side done. Now we're going to go over to the secondary side, and we're also going to drop that by 2 sizes. Take these bolts out. Make sure you get these little washers that are there too. Something I'm noticing since I'm back here, this little end cap here has a bunch of cracks in it, probably from the cold and probably from any fluid that may have gotten on there. Could have dried it out and cracked it. So this may be a vacuum leak. Could throw off our vacuum reading when we go to actually tune this. So I'm gonna have to see if I can find that part and see if I can replace it. All right, that is the metering block. So here's our secondary float. We'll go ahead and take those out. Okay, so these are our secondary jets. So this is very interesting. These are actually 68, not 72. So I wonder if, I got this carburetor a couple years ago, I wonder if Holley changed the secondary jetting. But either way, we're going to drop these by 2 sizes. So what we'll do, just to pull a little more fuel out of the secondary side, we had a size 62 jet in the primary. We're going to put a size 66 in the secondary, and we'll see what that does. Now this is easy enough to change out, so if we have to go back to a 68 or even go up a little more once we've got the carburetor tuned, that should be easy enough to do. Again, anytime you take these off, you want to throw a new gasket in there. So we'll do the same thing we did with the last side. We'll sort of pre-assemble here. What's very convenient about these is that all of these little guides here have their own little holes, so you can just line up round peg, round hole. Throw in one of our bolts. Hand tight for now, just to steady it. And one more time, we're going to tighten these down in a crisscross pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, R4. All right, so with that, the carburetor is done for now. At least done until we can get it back on the engine running and we can actively tune it live in the car. Here's what we changed. The primary jet was at 65. I'll just call it PJ for now. We set that to 62. The secondary jet was actually a 68. Call that SJ. It's now a 66. And the power valve was a 6.5. We set it to a 4.5. So hopefully all of these things are going to lead to less fuel, less of an exhaust burning smell, and hopefully will lead to a little better gas mileage too. That's going to be a big help with the 200 R4, help me start cruising this car. So we'll see how it goes. With that, that is it for the day. If you like what you're seeing so far, go ahead and like this video down below. If you want to continue seeing this stuff, follow along with the build, go ahead and subscribe. And if you have any friends that like cars too, or are interested in this sort of stuff, go ahead and share this video with them. The more viewers and subscribers the channel gets, the bigger it'll grow, and the sooner we can get to bigger and better projects. But for now, I'll see you next time.